I've always taken the view that Sat Nav is brilliant, but it's an aid to navigation. It's not the whole solution, if you like. One of the problems, I get this, I don't want to sound like an old person, but with young people I work with in television, they will get in a car having been given a location for a shoot, and they will simply put a postcode in a Sat Nav, something they got for $9.99 with 20 gallons of diesel or whatever, and then they will just blindly follow it without actually thinking, well, which part of the country am I going to? Should I be going west or should I be going north or whatever? They just believe it, and I don't entirely believe it, because rubbish in, rubbish out. If you put the wrong postcode in, you only need to get one letter wrong, you could end up in a completely different bit of the country, and I've seen that happen. But also, more to the point, if you only ever look at Sat Nav, which generally only has a screen this sort of big at best, then you're sort of looking at a map of the country down a tube, almost down a microscope, so you can only see a little bit of the country at a time. Whereas if you have a quick look at a big map to start with, I'm in that bit of the country and I'm going over to that bit, so you get an overview, if you like, and you don't make those, what the aviators would call the gross error, where you actually head in the opposite direction by mistake. So I like maps, but I think Sat Nav is brilliant, especially if you're on your own and you're going to another town, and then you need to find a small street, and it's very difficult. Young people won't even know this, but it is very difficult to drive a car or ride a motorcycle and keep looking at a map, especially as it's quite small, and if you're my age, your eyes are going as well, and so on. You have to keep stopping and looking at the map and remembering several turns, or scribbling it on a post-it note and sticking it on the dashboard or whatever. So Sat Nav is brilliant for that. But if I set off, I live in London, so if I set off to go to, say, Edinburgh, and then find someone's house down a side street, I don't need the Sat Nav to tell me how to get to Edinburgh. I know it's up the top of the country, and I know basically which way to go. I don't need it to say, turn left at the end of your road and drive for 100 miles. I know that, obviously. It's moronic at that level. But at the other end, it's very helpful in simply helping me to find Kate's house. And people who blame Sat Nav for things are saying, well, I know I've driven into the supermarket, but that's what it told me to do. It's only a machine. It doesn't have a soul, it doesn't have malice, it doesn't have an opinion. It's merely an algorithm and some colours on a screen. It's a suggestion, a bit like traffic lights in Italy. Doesn't mean you have to do it. I did get in a car with somebody from one of the production companies I work with, and I'd been away doing something else, and I'd flown back the night before very late, and I got up in the morning and they'd moved this shoot to that day. And I said, right, where are we going? And he says, I've put it in the Sat Nav. And he'd put in a location that was in Bristol, and we were actually going somewhere in Kent, and he'd got it wrong. And I said, I thought we were going to Kent. And he says, I don't know, we're just going to this postcode. And he didn't think, actually, where am I going? He just set off down the M4, and we would have gone to Bristol. Until I said, you must realise that place is in Kent, and Kent is not over there, it's back there. But this blind faith in what is really, a string of elaborate arithmetic, it disturbs me. It's the surrender of our autonomy. Machines are great, but they are only machines. They are our servants, not our masters.
Do you have the voice on or off when you're using Sat Nav?
I always have the voice off when I'm using Sat Nav. I can't really see the point of it speaking to me. Particularly not if it's, a comedy voice that you've downloaded and it's John Cleese or Jeremy Clarkson or whatever. I mean, why do you want... It's only got about 5 jokes in it, and they're all pretty lame, and you've heard them 20 times by the end of one journey. Why would you want that? At the end of the road, turn left. Yeah, all right, I can see that on the picture. It's a map. It's very logical. The conventions have been established since the early seafarers, or if not before. And nobody knows what 200 metres is, anyway. And they also say stupid things, because, again, it's just a series of phrases that are strung together according to an algorithm. It says things like, in Britain, it says, at the roundabout, take the third turning on the left. Now, in Britain, you can't turn off a roundabout on the right, otherwise you drive into the middle of the roundabout. So why does it say that? And a Mercedes once said to me, it assembled a series of phrases. I could see what it was doing. So it normally says, prepare to turn left in 300 metres. But this one said, prepare to carry straight on ahead. Now, I'm always prepared to carry straight on because that's generally what you do in a car unless there is something else to do. But it has the expression in its vocabulary, carry straight on, and it has the expression prepare to introduce the next thing. But the next thing happened to be carry straight on, so it said prepare to carry straight on. Yeah, I was. I've never driven along and then suddenly stopped in the middle of a motorway because I don't know what to do next. Stupid. Get a map. Don't be a ponce.